Okay, we start session 3 now. Saturday night, always a big night. Sold-out house here in Indianapolis at the State Fairgrounds Coliseum for Super Pull 14. $130,000 most prestigious event in America today. And here comes Bob Dabrowski representing Tire Warehouses out of Marlboro, New Hampshire. We've had a good contingent of pullers here from New England. Here's one of the guys who can run awfully tough with the twin Allisons, Mike, and these look like they're very special Allisons.
Yes, they are, Dave. Of course, there's two Allisons in the tractor, both of them fuel injected on alcohol with the Allison supercharger on the front end of the engine.
And these, of course, setting side by side. Mike, how do they hook these two motors together?
There's a gearbox right behind the two motors, Dave. Each motor has its own clutch, and of course the clutch locks with centrifugal force. And then there's a gearbox that couples the two motors together and goes on into the tractor transmission.
All right, does each motor then have its own clutch?
Each motor has its own clutch, so as the RPMs come up, the clutch locks and the motor starts pulling its share of the load.
All right, Bob Dabrowski now, Marlboro, New Hampshire with the twin Allisons. He calls it the Stinger, the #1 puller here in our first class, the 9,200-pound modified. He roars off the line. Here he goes. Looks a little heavy on the nose. Now he begins to lift, though.
At the beginning, yeah. It didn't quite pick up quite as soon as Bob wanted it to, but right straight down the middle of the track.
I don't think he can knock that run at all. 2:05.2. Whether he will want to take it or not, only time will tell. All right, so far, Mike Snyder, Banner Brothers have not had a good Indy Super Pull 14.
No, they really haven't, Dave. They've, I think, they got a 5th place back in the 7 modified.
Well, they're going to add another motor now. You see 5 427 Chevrolet engines there. So if they don't get you with driving skill, they'll normally get you with extra motors, but everybody else has got plenty of motors. So the Banner Brothers, who for years have been known of the guys that can read the track and figure out what to do and screw up other guys in the class now, have got a shot to place higher here in the 9 modified. And as we get to these heavier weight classes, normally their driving skill seems to shine.
Yeah, they do, Dave, but over the years there's been a lot of guys watching the Banner Brothers, and they've learned a lot of lessons from them. So the competition in this class is really tough.
They've been good teachers. Here we go now. Banner Orange. Dave Banner does all the driving for... Uh-oh, he's got problems. David having trouble coming off the line. You see the 75-foot mark there. He does not go past that. And that beautiful hunk of machinery, as we say, and it is a hunk, I'll tell you. We'll back up and try it one more time.
Yeah, I don't think it'd come out. Just maybe Dave didn't get with it quite as hard as he wanted to out of the hole.
Would this also be a test? Sometimes they test it maybe a little bit for having it in the wrong gear, whether the tractor is going to be able to pull that gear.
Oh, once in a while. But, you know, there's more than one gear that they can pull in, and sometimes in the heat of competition, you'll put the shifter in the wrong gear, and you really don't have to go very far before you find out you've made a serious mistake.
All right. So they're going to get one more try now. Here again, they've not had a good weekend at Super Pull 14. They've got a lot of guys on their tail that have just looked far superior. The Banner Brothers don't like to be beat. There's Brother Ralph on the left.
I think maybe one of the engines may have died on Dave just as he come out of the hole, because Ralph come out and they had to restart one of them.
All right. The brothers from up at Warren, Indiana, just north of Indianapolis, by about 80 miles. These guys have traveled as many miles as anybody in the sport from the East Coast to California. Here he comes now. You notice the injectors open up there on the superchargers. Here we're coming down the track.
He's balanced just about right.
And he powers out. But a disappointing run for Dave Banner at 2:05.7. Just a little bit better than Bob Dabrowski with the Stinger. Mike, it looks like they may be a little heavy on the sled, but we're going to know real quick here after Tim Engler makes his run whether they are or not.
Oh, that's right, Dave. And, of course, it's still early in the class. You know, the pullers are trying to figure out the sled and the track and get the combination right.
Engler now has added his 5th motor, and if you're looking at around 2,000 horsepower per motor, you're up somewhere between 9,000 and 10,000 horsepower in this machine right here. This is incomparable. Nothing else like it in the world today, and only tractor and truck pulling has it.
That's right. Can you imagine what it'd feel like to sit in the seat and push that throttle open just one time?
Right there is a throttle in his right hand. Mike, why do they use a hand throttle rather than a foot throttle?
It's very hard to control a foot throttle, Dave, and with a hand throttle, they can keep their arm over on the fender and just have more of a smooth control.
Oh, this baby is going to make a lot of noise. Here he comes, Mission Impossible. Look at this run. Look at this spectacular pull. Look at him go, go, go. And he is, Oh, he gets bounced around, ladies and gentlemen. That could be the winning run like that. It's going to take a super run to beat or tie it. It's a full pull for Tim Engler with his own chassis and 5 Aries motors. You're looking at about 175 grand to build a machine like that. Here comes John Walsh now out of Austin, Wisconsin with their triple Aries. Now here they are in the 9 modified. Is this a class that they can really look at a good run with even 3 motors?
Yes, I think they can, Dave, especially like at Indy Super Pull where you're not on a full 300-foot track. When you get outside on a full-length track, the big horsepower can really shine.
The Walsh family really has come up the last couple of years in the tractor pulling ranks.
Yes, they have. They operate 2 tractors, and of course they're big grain farmers up in Wisconsin.
The distance to beat right now, it's a long one. Tim Engler in the lead with a full pull. It just takes a miraculous run by anybody in the class. Jaski, Freeman, Banners, Leo K. Some of these guys have got a shot. John Walsh, his best shot is going straight down the track and lifting just right. And this tractor has made impressive runs the last couple of sessions here at Super Pull 14. All right, here comes Mr. Walsh out of Wisconsin. A lot of Badgers here in the competition. Another beautiful run.
Balance just right.
Oh, the dirt slinger. He's made beautiful runs like that time after time, but it is a disappointing 204.8 for John Walsh and the dirt slinger. Here's a guy that's had a pretty good weekend. Russ Jensen, who's in the used farm equipment business out of Wyoming, Illinois, with his own chassis and 5 Chevrolets. Now, we notice, of course, we mentioned this before in an earlier tape, that this is similar to the Banner Brothers tractor. And we've also noticed the last couple of years that pullers will start putting the motors in or placing the motors similar to what some of the other guys have done. Is there something to be said by copying your neighbor?
Well, if your neighbor's got something that works, I guess there'd definitely be something to say for copying him. But the motors have to be somewhat in a similar location in all the tractors so that the tractors will be balanced. The motors are too far forward, you're going to be heavy on the front end. If they're not forward far enough, the tractor's going to be light on the front end and hard to control.
All right, Russ Jensen's got his work cut out for him. He needs a full pull. He's capable of doing it. But he's had some trouble from time to time going from one side of the track to the other. He's got to make a good straight run down the track. We know that if you go from one side to the other, you're jerking and yanking that sled around the track, and boy, it makes a heavy load behind you. You want to go as straight as you can. Here comes Russ Jensen out of near Oregon, Illinois, northern part of Illinois. Here comes the Blackhawk Special. He's up on 2 wheels. Got a pretty good run going over near the left-hand side of the pulling track, and he spins out at 207.3, just a couple of feet ahead of Banner Orange. All right, making history now at Super Pull 14. Here comes Leo K. Earlier we saw him with 2, and we saw him with 4 engines. Now he has added the 5th motor. This is the chassis that Ronnie Reed put brand new under it. And here comes the driller. So 5 engines the first time for the year and at Super Pull 14.
This is the first time Leo's sat behind this kind of horsepower, too, so I'm sure he'll have about as much a thrill as anyone else.
Well, I'll tell you, last June when he was out in Davenport, Iowa for the TNT event there, I remember when he first bought this tractor off of Ronnie Reed, he said he had never felt power like that in his life. In fact, he won the pull in Davenport, Iowa the first time he climbed on the seat. But now he is
probably got about another 4,000 horse he's sitting behind, so this will be a real thrill.
Boy, I tell you, I guess it would have to be. They'll turn the tires, what, 100, 110 mile an hour?
I'd say right up there.
At least. All right, here we go now. Leo K., the driller out of Radford, Pennsylvania, in the 9,000-pound modified. He's going. He's got to move.
Good.
Hey, not a bad. Oh, look at that. Look at him plowing the dirt. Look at him plowing the dirt. Dirt flying all over the place. Tremendous tire speed, but he's going to come up short. But a good run, Leo K., 222 and 2. The success story of Indy Super Pull 14 has had to been this guy right here, Mike. Fred Freeman has already won a couple of classes out of Wadesville, Indiana. Of course, he has the Engler chassis that Tim Engler, his neighbor, built for him. And, boy, I tell you, he's got a good shot at making a 3 right here.
Isn't this something? His very first year at Indy Super Pull, and he's already got 2 classes in the bag.
All righty, a top TNT puller. And what he's got to do right now is simply have a full pull to tie Tim Engler and send this class into a pull-off. There you see the big throttle up there near his right hand. And as you mentioned before, these hand throttles. We also haven't talked about the fuel that they use in the tractors.
Yeah, the tractors run on straight alcohol, Dave. They don't run gasoline because gasoline burns so hot. It's such a volatile fuel. And not only in tractor pulling, but in all forms of motorsport, alcohol is a real popular fuel. You don't have the violent explosions like you would have on nitromethane. And
look at this rough spot. We'll get back to the fuel in just a moment. He had a tough time coming off the line. I know he lost precious feet there on the starting line. And he comes to a halt, but he's going to come up short, 2:29.7. And that's going to put him right now in about second place here this evening. Okay, as the track equipment leaves the track after doing their grading and packing, here comes another 5-motor tractor. I think we started off with something like 7 5-engine tractors altogether. Certainly the greatest amount of horsepower ever assembled at Indy Super Pull. And here comes now the guy, he's got a shot. Always got a shot. Steve Jaske out of Oconomowoc, Wisconsin. You've seen it with 2. You've seen it with 4. Once again, you see it with 5. The Weber chassis, the big Aries motors, nearly 600 cubic inches per motor, $25,000 an engine if you call up Nick Aries in California and order one. And that's what these guys do. There's no question about it. Have some of the top engine builders put them together for them. Steve Jaske, here again, Engler's in the lead with a full pull, so if anybody wants to tie, they too have to have a full pull. Now you can see Steve's dad was just out of the track, sort of getting him lined up, and it is important to get the sled lined up right, isn't it, Mike?
Oh, it is. Probably the first 50 feet that you go is the most important part of the whole pull. You don't want to be setting in someone else's ruts or have the sled setting in a hole, and you want to, that first 50 feet is going to make you or break you.
You could see the green light come on. He also pulled up to a tight hitch. There is no jerking on the chain. This is it. This could be a make it or break it run. Here he goes. Oh, looking good, Mike. Look at that. Look at the frame is twisting, but he's starting to go over to the right-hand side of the track. Throwing dirt, throwing dirt. Look how close
right
he is.
Down to the end.
Remember, until we get the distance here, remember the track is 236 feet long. Here it is, 232.7. Oh, look at that. Just a couple feet short of a full pull. All right, here comes Rick Ilsley now out of Ware, New Hampshire with their Milodons, their 5 Milodons, and sponsored by Grapponi Ford and Knoxland Equipment up there near Concord, New Hampshire. Beautiful part of the country and southern part of New Hampshire.
Well, I'll tell you, Dave, 14 years ago when we started Indy Super Pull, we never thought we'd see equipment like this, and this many tractors with these high-dollar multiple engines in them.
Let's talk about 14 years ago. We were running what? Mainly singles and twins.
Yeah, back then we thought one Allison aircraft engine was the toughest thing you'd ever see go down the track.
And it was 75 and 6 and 7 of those years in there were the judge and the jury pulling team when they ran so tough.
Then you remember when Lanny Kai come in with his first twin-blown modified, and everybody thought that was as much horsepower as we'd ever see.
And we thought they'd never be any louder either. He could really put the hammer down. Lanny Kai was well known for literally screaming those motors and hitting 9,000 and 10,000 RPMs. Well, they've taken it just 5 steps further, Mike, with these 5 and 6 engine tractors. And here we come now. Rick Ilsley out of Ware, New Hampshire with the Sassy Massey. Always tough in New England and on the East Coast. He pulls up to the tight hitch. And here again, they got to keep him straight down the track, apply the throttle just right, get the tires locked in before they mash the throttle. And most of these guys don't wait around. They light up the tires as quick as they can.
Especially on these short indoor tracks. Boy, when you get the green flag, it's time to get with the program.
Now, looks like some raw alcohol coming out of those, the couple of the engines there on the front. And the distance for Rick Ilsley, 2:15 and 11 as he takes his hands off the controls as they unhook him. All righty, boy, I tell you, we just keep rolling them out of the pit area and out of the staging lanes. Here we go now. 3 Allisons. Mike, tell us what all of this plumbing is about.
Well, I'll tell you, Dave, this tractor is just awesome. It has 3 turbocharged, fuel-injected, alcohol-burning Allison engines. They remove the crankshaft-driven supercharger from the front of these motors and add turbochargers, which it takes a lot of horsepower just to turn the supercharger on some of these engines. It may take 300-400 horsepower just to turn the supercharger. With turbochargers, you don't have to worry about that. It's the exhaust out of the engine that drives the turbos.
Gardner Stone, G. Stone Motors out of Middlebury, Vermont, where he is a Ford and a GM truck dealer. Sort of unusual to be that in the country.
That's a first.
and a beautiful spot, Middlebury, Vermont. Here we go. Now he's on it. The front end begins to lift a lot of power. He can make what, Mike, 9,000 horsepower?
I'd hate to guess, Dave. Them engines are just awesome, turbocharged on alcohol.
A lot of smoke coming out. Now, why would all that smoke come out, Mike?
Well, a turbocharger, the center housing of it, or what they call the bearing housing, is lubricated from the engine oil. When Gardner shuts the throttle, of course, the engine pulls a big vacuum, and it sucks a little bit of oil out of the turbochargers, and that's where the smoke comes from.
Nothing to worry about.
Serious.
As well as this flame.
Yeah, that's just a little bit of alcohol that didn't get burned on the way down the track.
A hot time in Indianapolis tonight. Well, wouldn't you like to have a wiener roast? The only problem is your hot dog would taste like alcohol.
Yeah, it might taste a little
But I think for some of the folks in the stands, they wouldn't mind a bit tonight. This is Super Pull 14, and they're loving it in Indy. Gardner Stone's distance, 221.8. How many times, Mike, have we seen a matchup like this? The last guy to run in the class now, Dave Banner on Banner Brown, and the guy in the lead, Tim Engler, with a full pull. So Banner Brown needs a full pull. In the 9 modified, this is a class where Banner shine.
Yeah, it is. This is one of probably their top class. You get up in the 11,000 pound class, and the big cubic inch racing engines, you know, the horsepower tends to shine a little bit. But I'm telling you, 6 427 blown Chevrolets in one tractor is just awesome.
Now, to build a gearbox is for a machine like this. You don't go to your local parts outlet to find something.
No, you just don't find something like that in your local speed shop. The gearboxes that couple these engines together are custom built for each tractor. They're a one-of-a-kind piece of machinery.
All righty, there's Ralph Banner checking out that left rear engine and making sure that everything is all right. They may have to squirt some more alcohol there in a charger and get that front engine going. They want to make sure that everything is cooking just right. To have an engine die of the line or out at 80 feet, then that just spells disaster. And, of course, the hitcher hooking up back there right behind the tractor. The green light comes on when everything is ready. Now they're pointing to that that right rear motor. They could have a motor that has died on them a little bit. David Banner shaking his head. I think everything's all right. So this is it. The last tractor, the 9 modified. He's going to give it all he's got. Here we go. The famous Banner brothers. And he begins to lift. He looks like he had a rough start over on the right-hand side of the track. Now they're coming clear over to the left. It's going to be close. And Dave Banner on Banner Brown comes up way short at 226.2, about 10 feet short of a full pull here tonight. And that concludes the 9,200-pound modified class. And what a great class it was. Only one full pull, and that was Tim Engler. Here are the official results now. Engler wins it with a full pull out of Princeton, Indiana. Number 2 goes to Steve Jaski out of Oconomowoc, Wisconsin at 2:32.7. Number 3, Fred Freeman, who has really just become spectacular here at Super Pull 14 from Wadesville, Indiana, 2:29.7. Number 4, Banner Brown, Warren, Indiana, with their Chevrolet, 2:26.2. They continue to have problems at the Super Pull. Number 5, Leo K. out of Bradford, Pennsylvania, his first run on the 5 Aries engine in the Reed chassis at 2:22.2. Coming up next, the 4-wheel drive trucks heavyweight class.